Recording.
Okay. Do you guys have a preference? Do you want to do hungry first, or do you want to do whatever you? Okay, we'll give Eileen a little time. So if she can sit there and have a speak up. So Eileen can sit there and relax for a little bit, and we'll wait on What a Wonderful World, and we'll start hungry first. Okay, so let's dive right into this. Jilly is amazing. I said that before. I'm going to say it one more time. Oftentimes, one of the things that I think that actors don't really recognize in themselves is the ability to see that they have the ability to bring to light something more poignant or passionate. In this case, we talked about the whole movie. When you started out doing this film, did you want to do a cute film that spotlighted something important to you, or was it really important to spotlight the purpose?
Yeah, when the idea first came to write something, I didn't know, I didn't have an idea of what I wanted to write, and so I thought that was an interesting idea that Thomas proposed to me, like, come on, write something, I know you could do it. So I wrote songs together with our band, and so then he brought me an article that was telling about a teacher who paid out of their own pocket to bring the lunch balances of the children up to snuff who were going hungry in the school. And then there was another article about the same type thing, and I thought, wow, this is something I want to shine a spotlight on, because children, they shouldn't be going hungry in our world, yes. You know? I mean, absolutely. And it's to bring them into the world and then they just suffer, and it's not right, and it doesn't have to be, you know? So I definitely thought, okay, this is something, a story I can make. I'll have the teacher be a female teacher in Brooklyn, because one of the articles was about a male, which kudos to that teacher too. And kudos to all the teachers. Actually, I've heard, you know, from a lot of teachers who have said to me that, yeah, I did this or I did that, you know. And also there were a lot of people in audiences, festival audiences, because we've gone through the circuit for a number of, this is our 31st screening, and some people didn't know about the problem, and it's still so timely, because Trump, 3 days ago, he makes a proposal to take 500,000 more children off the, you know, food, getting free lunch. So it's so timely.
Because of the cuts to the SNAP program.
Right.
They take the money away from social services and give tax breaks and subsidies to like Monsanto and big agriculture companies, but they take it away from poor income families.
Yeah, so how can you hurt children like this? It's just terrible. And also the other thing is about that it is so timely, and is always timely, but the importance of speaking up, you know, like, make your voice heard. So, yeah.
And she's a tiny woman with a big voice, and especially in this movie, because I was like, oh my God, look at her accentuate the voice. Now, obviously we've talked about Eric Roberts being in the film, and not everybody gets an opportunity to work with somebody who's well known. And as we all know, most of us who have followed Eric's past and present know that he's not always a nice guy. In fact, some of the time he plays a bad guy. In this particular movie, he's not the nicest guy. Obviously, he's not your best friend. So talk a bit, for those that have never met Eric before, what that experience was like, and how challenging was it when you're working alongside somebody like that. I imagine you have to come 200% prepared, you know what I mean, because you're expected to work with someone like that.
Yeah, well, he really, really wanted to make it work, you know. He and his wife care about children's causes. So once they, you know, read the script, they were like, you know, we want to do this. We want to make it happen. And he brought a lot of, he did some improv, and all, like, you know, flashing the peace sign. And he brought, like, I had written a character that is similar to a congressman, a real life congressman who was the congressman for Staten Island in Brooklyn, somebody who was an angry guy who threatened to throw a reporter off a balcony. And so, yeah, so that's what I was thinking of. But then when the opportunity presented itself that, like, Eric's, you know, he was submitted to me, and I was like, oh, yes. And then they read the script and they said yes, you know, so we all said yes to each other. And like he played it differently. He didn't want to play him angry. He wanted to play him like this smooth and slimy guy, and it just worked so beautifully. I
Absolutely.
And talk about wanting to be 200% prepared, which it was. I mean, I basically kept getting up at night, make sure all the shot list is down to a T.
Right.
And then, I wanted to break it up, but I wanted to do like one full take of the scene, and he wouldn't want to have it. He was afraid that he didn't remember all the lines, and so he wanted to break it up. And here was in the middle of the shoot, and my shot list goes out the window,
Sure.
and I just had to kind of improvise on the spot. We broke it into 3 pieces, and then it rocked. But again, he threw me a little off with my game. But
I imagine.
Being in the moment and working with the flow, and he really gave it like 500%.
Yeah, and
That brings up an interesting point that we want to talk about to budding filmmakers. When it comes down to, let's say you're working with more of a high-profile person, you've got your shot list put together. So any recommendation to folks, because, not all of us work with high-profile, but even if you don't, in terms of working with a shot list, being prepared, etc., what's the number one thing that you say, whether it's an actor, director, writer, etc., when you come onto set for the first day, what's the number one thing that you need to bring to the table that will work effectively to make life easier for everyone? Like in this case, like you're talking about shifting around with the shot list, etc. So outside of working with Eric, how to make life easier for everyone else? What can people do to be prepared when they come to set?
Flexibility, and that just really shows, I think, that flexibility is so important, that if one thing isn't going to happen for whatever reason, let's say the location you're shooting at shuts you down early, and to have to sort of on the fly make decisions of what to do about that. Like in our new film, A Chance, we were planning on shooting in this beautiful alley. It was beautiful because at the end of it there was this restaurant that had all these lights, and it had cool graffiti. And we found out last minute that the restaurant they owned the alley, and you had to pay them a lot of money to use it. And so we just on the flash we changed and shot along a nearby street that had the most amazing mural, and near a restaurant that had its own white lights, and it just was be flexible and be prepared. Oh, and I also
to your question, how to work with a high profile person.
Yes.
I made the effort. For instance, I picked him up from the airport.
Oh, nice.
And to have the drive into the city, they stayed with a friend, they put themselves up, work with us. They have to pay for a hotel. And that hour drive into the city, I bonded with him and talked about shooting, just other stuff. We kind of got to know each other.
Sure.
So I really made an effort to make him feel comfortable that, I look out for him up there. And he kind of got to know me, and then he got more confident about everything and relaxed. And then, so basically, to make sure that you're relaxed with each other, to bond on a human level before you start working with each other. That's my advice.
And the other thing that I was just going to say about the 200% and the 500% is that I think that I always try to bring 500% or whatever 200% to everything that I do as an actor, or as if I'm a performer. If I'm on stage doing a rock show or a play or a film shoot, whatever it is, you just have to bring it to what you're doing and with whoever you're playing with. It's all. I've been blessed to work with a number of amazing actors. Eric is a terrific actor. I've also worked with Marion Seldes, who's
nice.
Amazing, and Austin Pendleton.
Love
and
Austin Pendleton.
There's just it's just wonderful because it's ping pong. It's your back and forth, and everyone loves a good game.
One of the things I noticed about your film is you work with children on set. and I don't always get a chance to interview somebody who has had children on set, and it's a SAG production. So that in and of itself, it's got to be challenging. I guess talk a bit about, I imagine it's very enriching to work with children on set, and moreover, do they bring automatic challenges that you automatically have to address before you do the filming?
Yes, definitely. I mean, they were wonderful, but they also tired. You know?
Yes.
And like having to do something again and again, like when they're new to it, they don't expect that. So we were so glad that we got like great, that when they do the little protest march, it's so, it's like really, but it was because you have to do that a number of times.
They wouldn't keep the circle. They would get lost.
It was
distracted. That's children.
Yeah, it's tiring for them. So that's
Sure.
a challenge working with children.
Huh. Shoot days, how many?
8 shooting days spread over 4 months because of scheduling. We did the school, like back 2 days in the school, the apartment, 1 day, a couple of days, and then the gala was another day, and then we did some reshoots.
And outside what was supposedly a police station.
Yes.
So, but it was spread out because of scheduling. So it spread out over like a 4 month period. And then we edited, the first version was 26 minutes, and then we got it down to 23 minutes, which is our director's cut.
Oh, right.
And what we saw today was the 20-minute version because of certain festivals that we
They
wanted to get in.
required.
They had
Oh, yeah.
a 20-minute cut.
I'm curious, why Brooklyn? I'm a Staten Island girl myself. I like Staten Island, I like Queens, but I'm like, nobody films in either place. What the hell? Nobody seems to film there. So I'm like, what? Why Brooklyn?
It just seems to, originally the congressman who was supposed to be, the congressman was a congressman of Staten Island and Brooklyn. That's what he was, and Brooklyn just seemed to make sense. I don't know. It just.
Came natural.
I saw the Bronx for some reason. Maybe it was just me, but I was like, well, due to the subject matter, is it so off the wall to think Bronx? Is it me?
It could be anywhere. It
Oh, honestly, yes. It
You know,
would.
because that's actually what's happening, like, in lots of schools.
Well, the school interior actually was a school that Chinatown, downtown Manhattan. That we got.
Okay.
And then the exterior we shot.
It's so picturesque with all the murals.
Yes, it was.
And stuff.
Oh my god, I love that. That was like, tell us the status of Hungry. How many times have you screened?
Well, this is our 31st screening, and we were just actually invited to a festival that is called a Festival Angelica, which is in conjunction with what was called the ITV Fest. So, and we have had people say to us that this would make us, what about making this into a series?
It's not a bad idea.
That's something
got
that
it.
could be.
Speaking of shameless promotion, you need to tell us what the heck is going on. So besides Hungry, what else is going on in your lives? What else are you promoting?
Well, we just came from, like this morning, flew in from our second screening of our new film A Chance, which won Best LGBT Short or Feature.
Nice!
Vegas.
Yay!
Las Vegas.
That's awesome.
Thank you. And I'm shooting a couple of scenes from a miniseries I've been cast in. That's a FBI mafia thriller that's coming up.
We like that.
I'm actually playing a very different character. She's the wife of the mafia boss, and unhappy trapped in her situation. But she married for love, but then it's like, So that's also, I'm working on that.
And, I do, besides producing and post-production on our own projects, I do soundtrack work. I'm a composer.
Nice.
And that's just one of my feature films that I was hired to do the music of. It just came out. It's called Exit Zero, starring Peter Green, all fiction.
Ooh,
It's
nice.
going to be at the
The Chain
Chain Festival next week.
New York
The Chain.
City Festival.
Have you heard of that, Michael? The Chain?
Chain Film Festival at the Chain Theater next week, the 11th.
Nice.
And I have an experimental rock act that I just recorded a record in Brazil. And so
Nice.
it's coming out at the end of the month.
Musicians. I like musicians.
You can go to thomassimon.nyz
Oh yeah, JillieSimon.com. Yes.
and keep track of what we're up to.
Hold that thought 1 second. I'm just grabbing the vino. And on to
saw
you
you
guys.
eyeing that.
Oh, Michael was like, yeah.
Oh, and Instagram at Julie Simon.
At Thomas Simon Vortex.
What a wonderful
You're
world.
brave. Red wine with a white dress. Okay.
She's doing good.
Careful.
Good so far.
Tell it.
Oh, am I all right? All right.
Good.
Good. No spillage.
What a wonderful. I am so proud of what a wonderful. First of all, I've never met Eileen until today, and what she doesn't know is she scares the hell out of me. She did before I met her. She scares me even more now because there's nothing more badass to me than a woman and any female that's capable of going to a film set and doing what she did for the first time. That's huge. Having chemistry with one of my favorite, LaPonta, you're not here, Christopher LaPonta, having chemistry with him and working with him and just having that dynamic work is very impressive. It's the first thing that ever stood out to me. I had no idea until today that she had not acted in the film. So talk a bit about, I'd like to know what it's like when you're working with a longtime actor like Christopher. Come to the side. You're not used to this. So I'd like you to tell folks a bit about your background, where you come from, and then talk a bit about, was there any point where you thought it's a bit intimidating or you're feeling a bit insecure about doing this role? Because it's got to be scary, isn't it?
Well, my background is really musical theater. I really wanted to do film and TV forever. That was always what I wanted to do. And one day I realized I could sing, and it just sort of sent me on a path. And I was very committed to that, and I worked, and I loved it, and I toured the world and the country, and I did Les Mis and Fiddler, and it was amazing. But always in the back of my mind was, I wonder, like, what that would be like, And I had done extra work and been on sets and just found it fascinating, and it was always in the back of my mind, but I didn't really have a way in. And even I was in LA on tour with Fiddler, and I got some agent meetings, and they had all said to me, well, if you move here, we'll represent you for musical theater, but we're not going to represent you for film and television. I'm like, I'm not moving to LA to do musical theater. That makes no sense. So I just never really figured out a way in. And I had done an episode of a web series for Mark probably a decade ago. Mark is the director and the writer, and he would occasionally come to me and say, so I'm working on this thing, are you available? I was always available, but things just never lined up. And I ran into him about 2 years ago, and it was just one of the perfect things, because he remembered, and he wrote this piece, and he called me and said, do you want to do it? And I'm like, yes, because I'm not being offered film work, just gonna say it.
Life of an actor.
And it was a great part, obviously. I mean, it's a 4-character, 2-hander. I mean, you can't do better than that. And we had a blast. And I certainly never, I just thought we were going to make this little film. I wasn't expecting to be sitting here talking about it and screening it in festivals. This is a complete surprise. As far as Chris goes, I am amazed, because Chris has done a lot, but he's as insecure and as the next person, and we both came to this from the same place of really wanting to do good work and feeling overwhelmed by full-time jobs and auditions in life, and
and trying to make something that people would enjoy. And we had chemistry. We just did. As a matter of fact, Mark had said that when he showed scenes to some people, that some of the people felt that we had too much chemistry. The couple that was not happy looked a little bit too into each other. So some of that had to be edited out, which is a little bit of a shame, but I get it.
I agree.
You have a story to tell and you want to do that.
Young man, introduce yourself to your audience. Tell everybody your involvement with the film so they know.
Hi, my name is Zainin. I was part of the additional photography for the film and helped shoot it.
So let's talk about shooting for a second. One of the coolest things, which I'm sure we all noticed when you watch the movie, or if you haven't seen it yet, one of the things you might notice is there's not two of Eileen or Christopher. So clearly somebody had to recreate those characters. So talk a bit about, because I'm partial to one couple. There are two couples, but I like the one. How do you recreate that? And moreover, how do you get it to look so authentic? That's one of the things that always I question so much. Like how much work is it to produce them, literally?
Right. So it was one of my first times shooting something that was special effects heavy like that.
Right.
And Mark, the director, was really like my go-to as far as like how to achieve it. And a lot of it was shooting a scene in the different wardrobes and basically shooting plates of that. And, making sure that we measured out the distances so that it didn't feel like they were on the same axis, that there was distance between them and the surrounding environment. And it came out really well.
Absolutely. One of the things that stood out, I think, to myself and others that have watched the film is clearly towards the very end, when both couples realize where they are, etc. And I don't want to give it away, but that scene in particular, and not as pretty scene. How hard was that? Because I imagine there's some setup involved, and how did you set that up? How long did that take, and where was it shot? Because I was curious. I didn't recognize
Staten
it.
Island.
Yes.
We
Damn!
Staten
Yes, they did! I
that
knew
funny?
that.
The apartment, a couple of days, and then the gala was another day, and then we did some reshoots.
And outside what was supposedly a police station.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. So, but it was spread out because of scheduling. So it was spread out over like a 4 month period. And then we edited, the first version was 26 minutes, and then we cut it down to 23 minutes, which is our director's cut.
Oh, right.
And what we saw today was the 20-minute version because of certain festivals that we wanted
They
to get
required.
in. They had
Oh, yeah.
a 20-minute cut of time.
I'm curious, why Brooklyn? I'm a Staten Island girl myself. I like Staten Island, I like Queens, but I'm like, nobody films in either place. What the hell? Nobody seems to film there. So I'm like, what? Why Brooklyn?
It just seemed to, originally the congressman who was supposed to be, the congressman was a congressman of Staten Island and Brooklyn. That's what he was, and Brooklyn just seemed to make sense. I don't know. It just.
Came natural.
I saw the Bronx for some reason. Maybe it was just me, but I was like, well, due to the subject matter, is it so off the wall to think Bronx? Is it me?
You know, it could be anywhere.
Oh, honestly, yes, it could.
Because that's actually what's happening, like in lots of schools.
Well, the school interior actually was a school that from Chinatown, downtown Manhattan. That we got,
okay.
And then the exterior we shot.
It was so picturesque with all the murals.
Yes, it
and
was.
stuff.
Oh my God, I love that. That was like, tell us the status of Hungry. How many times have you screened?
Well, this is our 31st screening, and we were just actually invited to a festival that is called a Festival Angelica, which is in conjunction with what was called the ITV Fest. So, and we have had people say to us that this would make us. What about making this into a series?
It's not a bad idea.
That's something
On the
that
Yes.
could be.
Speaking of shameless promotion, you need to tell us what the heck is going on. So besides Hungary, what else is going on in your lives? What else are you promoting?
Well, we just came from, like this morning, flew in from our second screening of our new film, A Chance, which won Best LGBT Short or Feature.
Nice! Yay!
Las Vegas.
That's awesome!
Thank you. And I'm shooting a couple of scenes from a miniseries I've been cast in. That's a FBI mafia thriller that's coming up.
We like that.
I'm actually playing a very different character. She's the wife of the mafia boss, and unhappy trapped in her situation. But she married for love, but then it's like, So that's also, I'm working on that.
I do, besides producing and post-production on our own projects, I do soundtrack work as a composer.
Nice.
And then just one of my feature films that was hired to do the music of just came out. It's called Exit Zero, starring Peter Green, of fiction.
Oh, nice.
It's going to be at the Chain Festival next week.
New York
Chain
Festival.
Have you heard of that,
Theater.
Michael? The Chain?
Chain Film Festival at Chain Theater next week, the 11th.
Nice.
And I have an experimental rock act that I just recorded a record in Brazil. So
Nice.
it's coming out at the end of the month.
Musicians. I like musicians.
You can go to thomassimon.nyz.
Oh yeah, JillySimon.com.
But
Oh, am I all right? All right,
Very good. No spillage.
What a wonderful. I am so proud of what a woman. First of all, I've never met Eileen until today, and what she doesn't know is she scares the hell out of me. She did before I met her. She scares me even more now because there's nothing more badass to me than a woman, and any female that's capable of going to a film set and doing what she did for the first time. That's huge. Having chemistry with one of my favorite, LaPonta, you're not here, Christopher LaPonta, having chemistry with him and working with him and just having that dynamic work is very impressive. It's the first thing that ever stood out to me. I had no idea until today that she had not acted in a film before. So talk a bit about, I'd like to know what it's like when you're working with a longtime actor like Christopher. Come to the side. You're not used to this. So I'd like you to tell folks a bit about your background, where you come from, and then talk a bit about, was there any point where you thought it's a bit intimidating or you're feeling a bit insecure about doing this role? Because it's got to be scary as hell.
Well, my background is really musical theater. I really wanted to do film and TV forever. That was always what I wanted to do. And one day I realized I could sing, and it just sort of set me on a path. And I was very committed to that, and I worked, and I loved it, and I toured the world and the country, and I did Les Mis and Fiddler, and it was amazing. But always in the back of my mind was, I wonder like what that would be like, And I had done extra work and been on sets and just found it fascinating, and it was always in the back of my mind, but I didn't really have a way in. And even I was in LA on tour with Fiddler, and I got some agent meetings, and they had all said to me, well, if you move here, we'll represent you for musical theater, but we're not going to represent you for film and television. I'm like, I'm not moving to LA to do musical theater. That makes no sense. So I just never really figured out a way in. And I had done an episode of a web series for Mark probably a decade ago. Mark is the director and the writer, and he would occasionally come to me and say, so I'm working on this thing, are you available? I was always available, but things just never lined up. And I ran into him about 2 years ago, and it was just one of the perfect things, because he remembered, and he wrote this piece, and he called me and said, do you want to do it? And I'm like, yes, because I'm not being offered film work. Let's, just gonna say it.
Life of an actor.
And it was a great part. Obviously, I mean, it's a 4-character two-hander. I mean, you can't do better than that. And we had a blast. And I certainly never, I just thought we were going to make this little film. I wasn't expecting to be sitting here talking about it and screening it in festivals. This is a complete surprise. As far as Chris goes, I am amazed because Chris has done a lot, but he's as insecure and as the next person, and we both came to this from the same place of really wanting to do good work and feeling overwhelmed by full-time jobs and auditions in life and trying to make something that people would enjoy, and we had chemistry. We just did. As a matter of fact, Mark had said that when he showed scenes to some people, that some of the people felt that we had too much chemistry. The couple that was not happy looked a little bit too into each other. So some of that had to be edited out, which is a little bit of a shame, but I get it.
I agree.
You have a story to tell, and you want to do that.
Young man, introduce yourself to your audience. Tell everybody your involvement with the film so they know.
Hi, my name is Zainin. I was part of the additional photography for the film and helped shoot it.
So let's talk about shooting for a second. One of the coolest things, which I'm sure we all noticed when you watch the movie, or if you haven't seen it yet, one of the things you might notice is there's not two of Eileen or Christopher. Right. So clearly somebody had to recreate those characters. So talk a bit about, because I'm partial to one couple. There are two couples, but I like the one. How do you recreate that? And moreover, how do you get it to look so authentic? That's one of the things that always I question so much. Like how much work is it to produce them, literally?
Right. So it was one of my first times shooting something that was special effects heavy like that.
Right.
And Mark, the director, was really like my go-to as far as like how to achieve it. And a lot of it was shooting a scene in the different wardrobes and basically shooting plates of that, and making sure that we measured out the distances so that it didn't feel like they were on the same axis, that there was distance between them and the surrounding environment, and it came out really well.
Absolutely. One of the things that stood out, I think, to myself and others that have watched the film is clearly towards the very end, when both couples realize where they are, etc. And I don't want to give it away, but that scene in particular, and not as pretty scene. How hard was that? Because I imagine there's some setup involved, and how did you set that up? How long did that take, and where was it shot? Because I was curious. I didn't recognize
Staten
it.
Island.
Yes.
We shot
Bam!
Staten
Yes,
Island.
they did! I
that
knew
funny?
that. Very cool. Love it. But I assume there's setup involved with that. I don't want to give too much away, so I can't really say, but you've seen the film, so you know. How complex is that? Because you're creating, almost in some ways, an altered world that doesn't really exist.
Yes. Well, for a lot of the scenes, like the living room scene where both
Right.
are meeting, a lot of that was it was tricky because I believe one we shot was like winter or something like that, and we had to deal with the sun setting
Different
really,
times of year.
Yeah. So it was a lot of like trying to rush to set things up, make sure that the exposure was just right, and not lose that continuity. But a lot of it was just like camera placement, actor placement,
Sure.
and editing, and I was pretty happy with how it came
But if I'm not
absolutely.
mistaken, that last shot is all post.
out. Yeah.
I was, I meant to mention
Yeah.
that, but then I thought, let's just not
Yeah.
do that, because I
Am-
hate that whole,
Am I-
we'll do
am
it
I
in
right?
post.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll
no,
just do it in
No,
post.
that last shot was
The
all
last shot was
post.
great.
Do it in post.
Well, it was a combination of like shooting the outside, getting plates, but also having the special effects team, really getting nitty gritty and dirty,
Right.
and making that last shot. So a lot of that was on set, but also in post.
Right. Eileen and I had talked a bit about, and this is my personal interpretation because obviously I know Mark, I know Christopher, so I can judge it. One of the things that was brought up to me personally was there are people that look at the dynamic of the relationships, meaning when I was looking at it, I thought one couple is in heaven, one couple is in hell. Did Mark ever say to either one of you that it was important to him that people define the relationships, meaning where they were as it relates to where they were physically? Or was it just a matter of the couple itself? Was he definitive about that? Because he's not here, obviously.
It's a long time ago, and I don't think it was definitive. I think it was more about, here's this couple that lives in the wonderful world,
Yes.
and they're unhappy. Like, it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter that you have nice things. What matters is your life with this other person.
Right.
And then there's this other couple that is eating expired canned goods and can't go outside, and yet they're sitting together reading a book on the couch.
Right.
And what really is important. I think it was more about that than it was about, what those two opposing worlds mean.
I get you. Obviously, we see where Eileen is looking around for her ear, which leads her to put her hand in, which leads to that beautiful thing we call special effect. So I've been looking at that over and over, and I thought to myself, first of all, how did they do that? Meaning you as an actor, because I assume that they conjecture a lot of this. They fabricate and put it together. So how much of that do you expect? Like when they set the scene up, were you knowing what was going to happen and this whole visual was going on?
I mean, to a degree, I'm not sure that Mark really knew what it was going to be.
Okay.
So it was. I mean, when I think back, it was insane what we were doing.
It was actually.
We were two people playing four people. We
Right.
were on we didn't have stand-ins. It's not
Right.
like I had somebody standing
I know.
there that I could talk to. We were doing it to thin air.
Oh, sure.
So it was crazy.
It's
It was,
skill,
and it was
though.
also like, what color t-shirt am I wearing? Wait,
Who am I right now?
I mean, it was, and especially because we originally thought it was going to be over a weekend, and it
Right.
ended up so not being over a weekend. It ended up being like over 6 months
Yes.
of various weekends. And if you look closely, you can see my hair change. I walk through the door, and my hair's 3 inches shorter. It's whatever. But it was it was hard.
Oh, I imagine so, absolutely. I give you a hell of a lot of credit just for trying it. I'm like, oh my God, it's hard enough to just duplicate yourself, let alone do it. It's like, holy hell. Do we know budget-wise what we spent? How many days? I like to pinpoint that. I'm like,
Yeah.
because I know
I
the 6 month thing.
definitely don't know budget. I have no clue.
Okay, and that's not the end of the world. You don't have to
Days?
necessarily know that. Over 6 months?
Over 6 months, but like 10
days.
something.
Something like that.
Something
I'm sorry.
like that.
It's a
No,
blur.
it was a while ago. So.
And I'm going to brag for a minute. Festival run at this point, do we even know how many? I mean, do we even know how many we're at right now?
How many festivals?
Yeah,
Not
so
at all. I know it's a lot, and I know it's all over the world, and it's mind blowing. The reason that Mark, the director and writer, isn't here is because we were in another festival at the same time, and he
Yes.
felt that he wanted us to be represented in both.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark, because I know you're with CJ Cullen over at Brightside, which is one of my pals, so I totally get that. So, what's next for Eileen? Because Eileen has got to act some more in film. That's what I think. So that's
Please.
just me. Somebody hire this girl. Anyone. But
That is really very sweet.
I'm just telling it like I see it.
I hate to sit here and say that I just don't have anything that I just hate to say that, but
She did not just say that.
I did. No, this was a very good experience for me. I saw some things up there that I liked, and I really am very eager to do more.
So you're shopping around for opportunity.
I am shopping around for opportunity.
We like that term. We're shopping around. So if you see that pretty face and you say, I want to cast her. There you go. And you, young man, what are you working on next?
There's going to be a couple of features coming up that
Ooh.
I'm going to be working on.
Anything you can talk about, or you haven't started yet?
Nothing yet, unfortunately. A lot of it is like NDA, and then there's some that I'm still waiting for confirmations on. I can talk about like a test film that I'm shooting right now,
Sure.
cinematography, and it's all in preparation for a feature that
Nice.
we're going to be pitching to investors.
Very nice. So now I get to tell you what I think. I'm supposed to keep this on, so I'll tell you what I think of both of your films. Julie's film first, Hungry. I had the great pleasure of watching this repeatedly because my judges viewed it, and then of course I viewed it. As I've told you before to your face, I've always been impressed by you, period, for the fact that you bring such a wonderful innocence and yet innovative and interesting take to your character is always impressive to me. I've said that, and I say it again. I'm impressed that you got Eric. Most of us want Eric Robinson in films, so the fact that you got him is very impressive. You working alongside him, it works. I don't know that you needed him, and I love Eric Robertson. I think it worked very well. But the music, the message, the meaning, your presence, the notations, it's a very well done. Absolutely well done. So sadly, one of the things that I'm most sad about is that it wasn't nominated. However, I want to say this to you. First of all, I'd love to, not that you need him, and I would be more than willing to review. You should come on my show because everyone should come on my show because everything's audience. But more importantly, and I might have mentioned this, I am starting my own television streaming network at the end of the year, and I'm doing independent films on the channel. And I would love to show the film. Even though it's not nominated, it doesn't need to be nominated. I think it's wonderful. I think it's worthy. I think it has a message that many need to see, that will get to see outside the circuit. And the only way to make that happen is if I allow you the opportunity. So you can think it would be important if you would consider.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all those lovely words. And I mean, we've been blessed to have 11 awards with Hungry so far.
11!
Thank you. And 5 acting awards that I received. So I'm so, blessed whenever, you get the honor. But there's so many beautiful performances out there.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's so many, worthy films. So we have to share the wealth. And we have to
Absolutely.
share the love.
Yes.
And know that, actually it doesn't mean, all the films are, whether nominated or not, they're all loved, and we're so grateful when people are, wanting to show us and taking an interest and wanting to spread it around, and it's just lovely. And this is sort of about just, creating a place for art and
Yes.
and raising everything up beautifully.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Absolutely. You're quite welcome. Now, you young lady, a couple things I have for you. After we show Limbo, which is our last film, I'll know whether you won or not. I don't know. So we have to show the film and then the awards come out. So that's number one. Number two, how many reviews, do you know how many? Has Mark had the film reviewed? Do you know?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So if you can find out, obviously, of course, the offer is out there for you guys to obviously have a formal review done by me, whether you win or not. I'm more than willing to review the film professionally and write it and publish it. It would be amazing. I would like to cast you in my film. Yes. That's why I was talking to you upstairs, so that's number two. And number three, well, we'll just save that after the awards, but I think that's enough. I will tell you this, my judges, as I mentioned, one of the things that stood out, and you should know this as far as camera work goes, it's not often and every day that people take the leap to be able to reproduce a story where you have duality. Duality is very important, and it's not just the presence of 4 people. It really is dual personalities doing dual things. You're doing the work of 2 people, whether you meant to or not. And that's impressive for an actor who hasn't done this before, so kudos to you on that. But most importantly, cameras and actors work together, and so it's just as important. And so my judges equally enjoyed the camera work as much as the actual character acting. So hand in hand, it was very impressive. They liked the story, they liked the cinematography, they loved the ending, because nobody saw it coming. Every judge was like, what? How the hell did that happen? So that was quite refreshing for them too. So know that the film was embraced. And I can tell you, yet again, another film that was sitting at 7.5 in every category. So that my criteria is at least 7. So 7.5 is above and beyond. So congratulations.
Wow.
I hope that you win. I don't know. We're going to find out after
Thank you
this
so
feature.
much.
But thank you. And picture with both.